Tell me where the bomb is. 10 seconds or you're dead.
Interesting. I'm the only one who knows where that nuke is.
Well, then, in that case, I'd say you'd better start. Oh, fuck.
Oh my God, why did you do that?
I didn't do it on purpose. There's like a ton of pollen in here.
When I quit teaching and joined the CIA, I thought I was going to be this amazing spy, and I'm still just the same boring person I was.
You play it too safe.
I just hear my mom's voice. Just blend in, let somebody else win. Making a wave isn't always brave.
Brilliant.
Give up on your dreams, Susan. Just to write that in my lunchbox.
We've intercepted chatter that Rayna Boyanov knows where that nuke is. She knows the identity of all our agents.
How the fuck did this twat find out our fucking names?
We don't know. And dial it way back at the T word for it.
Grow up. Twat means something completely different in England.
Well, here it means vagina.
We need someone to find the bomb without being detected. But it can't be any of you. We need someone invisible.
I'll do it.
Okay. Thanks, lunch lady.
I'm serious. I can do this.
We're giving you a new identity. You will no longer be Susan Cooper. You're Penny Morgan, divorced housewife from Iowa.
The confidence builder.
You think you're ready for the field?
Get away from me! God damn it!
You are not to make contact with any of the targets.
Here's to you. You may never be as wise as an owl, but you'll always be a hoot to me. What a stupid fucking toast. Go to life. Okay. I'm your worst fucking nightmare. I will destroy you.
Who the fuck are you?
I'm the person that's gonna cut your dick off and glue it to your forehead so you look like a limp dick unicorn. That's who the fuck I am.
To think we all thought that this was going to be another Identity Thief or Tammy or just another bad Melissa McCarthy comedy, and turned out not to be that way. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we're taking a look at the 4 films that make up June 5th, 2015, and we have a good comedy, not so good comedy, we have a sequel, and then we have one of the more underrated movies of the year. So let's start off with the good comedy. That is Spy, which is hard to believe after watching a trailer like that, but lo and behold, turns out to be a pretty damn good movie. Susan Cooper, played by Melissa McCarthy, is an unassuming desk-bound CIA analyst and the unsung hero behind the agency's most dangerous missions. But when her partner, played by Jude Law, falls off the grid and another top agent, played by Jason Statham, is compromised, she volunteers to go deep undercover to infiltrate the worlds of a deadly arms dealer and prevent a global crisis. And yeah, Paul Feig is a talented writer and director, but when it comes to his films, they're sort of mixed. Like, I like Bridesmaids, but I thought that was overrated and had a ton of flaws to it, and I really did not like The Heat, despite Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy's chemistry working well. I also think Melissa McCarthy is a very good comedic actress, but her leading roles don't give her a chance to really fully show off her abilities. Like I said, Identity Thief, The Heat, Hangover Part 3, Tammy are all terrible movies where the main focus of the humor is how fat Melissa McCarthy is. But when you put her in some good movies like Bridesmaids, This is 40, and St. Vincent, she's really great. And I'm so happy to report that this is probably their best collaboration they have done up to this point. This was a really, really good movie. I mean, Melissa McCarthy has a chance to be really funny without having to resort to consistent jokes about her weight or anything like that. She's very funny in the movie and can kick a lot of ass, surprisingly, in this. I thought she kicked more ass in this than she did in The Heat. I thought Miranda Hart was pretty good, too. The two of them worked off each other very well. She plays her friend in the movie. Jude Law, I think, is really fun in this, playing sort of a James Bond-like spy, and the connection that him and McCarthy have is very good. Rose Byrne playing the villain of the film also gets a lot of really good laughs, too. The highlight of the film, though, is Jason Statham. This is a performance that is so well done. And, you know, if this was 30 years ago, he probably would have gotten a Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Oscars, because around this time, of course, the Oscars didn't really give a whole lot of praise to comedies all that much. I mean, hell, Melissa McCarthy got a Supporting Actress Oscar for Bridesmaids, but that was more a rarity than the norm, I should say. But Jason Statham was really good in this movie. He is so funny in this. All the quips and improv lines that he throws in here are just bullseyes right off the bat. I don't remember a single joke of his that fell flat in this movie. And one of the best things I like about the movie is that it doesn't take the predictable way out. There's a point early on where you think Jude Law's character is going to be killed off, and, you know, it turns out he's still alive and he's working for the bad guy. Or is he? Like, it's later revealed that he had to shoot one of the other agents, who turns out to be a double agent, and that he faked his death in order to gain intelligence on the device's location by posing as the lover of the Roseburn character. And I feel like it would have been so easy to just make him a double-crosser, but the film is smart enough not to insult the intelligence of the audience like that. I mean, just like it would have been so easy to do the same thing with Jason Statham's character, but when they do with him is great, and once again, should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars that year, but the comedy is really good. It's really, really hilarious. The inside gags about how the office McCarthy works for has infestation problems is so well done. The spy humor works. The raunchy humor is great. I mean, this is a really funny movie. Well done, well put together, a great satire of spy movies, which this was a pretty good year for Fox's satires of spy films because, you know, we had Kingsman: The Secret Service earlier in the year. I mean, it's a great year for that. I mean, this movie just works on so many levels. Paul Feig and Melissa McCarthy finally gets a chance to show off their great comedic abilities in the best possible way. The casting works, the story works well, the humor is great. It's a very funny comedy. Not 21 Jump Street funny, but still pretty damn funny overall. And of course, it got you excited to see what Ghostbusters was going to be like with these two working together. And the results, I'll say this, it's a lot better than people make it out to be. And it's not a bad movie, but it's a very flawed movie. But we're still a summer away from that happening. But Spy overall is a great film. I do recommend that. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is the horror sequel Insidious, Chapter 3.
The dead off that can hear you.
Don't wait for Halloween to see the scariest movie of 2015.
It's feeding on her soul.
Insidious goes back to the beginning.
You said you could bring her back!
Insidious Chapter 3.
Which, I mean, technically it's not even really a Chapter 3. It's mostly a prequel, but there are kind of elements of a sequel in here. Kind of has the Conjuring effect, pretty much, where it's they market it as a sequel, but it's kind of mostly a prequel. But anyway, go back to the beginning in this chilling prequel that takes place before the unforgettable haunting of the Lambert family, when paranormal investigators Tucker and Specs team up with the psychic Elise to help a teenage girl connect to her late mother. Elise is forced to venture back into the further, where she finds a ruthless supernatural entity craving the souls of the living. It's the darkest chapter yet in the spine-tingling portrayal of evil unleashed. It's not the darkest chapter. I mean, anything, it's probably the weakest of the trilogy in general. Insidious 1 was really good. Insidious Chapter 2 was really good. This one really does kind of feel like they were kind of pushing their luck on this one here. There are times when you get some legitimately good scares in here, but they're very few and far between. They're not quite as engaging as the previous movies are. But like I said, there is still a lot of good stuff in here. Like, I like that scene where, you know, she's walking, you just hear the crackling of her legs and of the girl's body and all that. Like, that's well done. But yeah, like I said, the scares in this one are few and far between. And honestly, when you look at the other films going forward, they're not going to have the same effect as the original two films did. I mean, the first two I thought worked very well to a T, and everything after this point kind of is them pushing their luck a little bit here. But none of these movies are really that terrible per se. Maybe, at least as far as I remember, the last couple of films were films that I didn't hate. But yeah, these films are not going to have anything on the same levels as 1 and 2. I think 1 and 2 are probably the best ones in the series in general. Everything after this, very few and far between. And this one kind of got off with a little bit of a break because of the director Leigh Whannell coming in here to direct it. This is actually his first movie he ever directed, too, so there's that. But, yeah, not much more to say about that one. Insidious Chapter 3. So, it's at least better than our next movie, which is the Entourage movie. Entourage the movie, I should say, because that's what it was marketed as.
If you've never seen a Vincent Chase movie, chances are you've heard the name. Chase hails from Queens, New York, where he's surrounded by a group of loyal friends. We caught up with his entourage.
Who's he calling an entourage?
Not me. I'm a relative.
Whatever I do next, I also want to direct. You're 15 million over. What'd you spend the money on anyway? If it doesn't work out, we can move back to Queens.
I don't want to go back to Queens, bro. I like the weather out here too much.
Rated R in theaters June 3rd.
A movie so good that John Oliver couldn't stop making fun of it when this was coming out.
Holy shit.
when controlling arseholes threaten their dependents with numerically inferior chicks, that's not a responsible business model. That is entourage. That's what that is. Hey, if you dig my Benz bra, I'll have every girl in LA avoid your dick like it's a fucking carbohydrate. Can't wait for the movie. I cannot wait for the movie. It's going to be sick. It's going to... The boys are back. The boys are back. The boys are back. Watchable films in recent memory. And remember, this is the same week the Entourage movie came out. Hashtag, the boys are back.
Fun fact, I had a hard time finding that longer clip from the chicken farming episode of Last Week with John Oliver because I couldn't find the Last Week Tonight with John Oliver because I couldn't find that segment where he's talking about the boys are back. Like, I couldn't find that for the longest time. It took me over an hour to go through all these episodes to try to find it, and finally I did. Like I said, it's the chicken farming episode, but yeah, Entourage the movie. You know, Sex and the City didn't work on the big screen, so clearly Entourage should work. You would think, but not so much. But movie star Vincent Chase, Adrian Grenier, together with his boys Eric, Kevin Connolly, Turtle, Jerry Ferrera, and Johnny, Kevin Dillon, are back in business with super agent turned studio head Ari Gold, played by Jeremy Piven, on a risky project that will serve as Vince's directorial debut. Now, I did like Entourage. I did watch the original series when it was on the air, but I liked the first 5 seasons in general. Those were the standout seasons of the show. You could tell that the show was kind of petering off, starting with season 6 and 7 and 8. They're bad, but not to the levels of shows like, 2.5 Men and Dexter, where they really fell apart towards the end of their runs. Well, those shows did, but I mean, it gets bad when because the whole show basically goes on autopilot at that point. They don't do anything groundbreaking or new. It just ends up being the same thing over and over again. And even when they try to do something different for a season and a cliffhanger, it's automatically resolved before the new season starts. I mean, literally, the whole crux of a season will be like, oh, Vince doesn't get to make this movie that he wants to make. And then by the end of the season, it's just like, hey, Vince gets to make the movie. And then Vince doesn't get to make the movie he wants to make. And then Vince gets to make the movie at the end of the season. It just kept going on and on and on. And I'm sad to report, and I really am sad to report about this. That's exactly what they do here with this movie, and I was already set to hate the movie because of that alone. The movie literally starts off after the last episode ends, and Vince has already divorced his wife after 9 days. And it just proves my point that in this movie, the characters never change their ways. This literally does to Entourage what the Sex and the City movies did to those characters. That's the major problem with this movie. It's been 4 years at this point since the last Entourage episode, and these guys have not changed at all. They aren't grown up, and even when they do grow up, there's always something that stands in their way of that, because they gotta be the boys, they gotta be the bros and all that. It's just like, it's exactly the same reason why I hated American Reunion. It's the worst example of a reunion movie, because you could tell the directors nor the writers didn't want these characters to grow up, even though it's been 10 years since the last time we saw them in American Reunion. And the Sex and the City movies do the same thing, too. These characters do not age with these movies. They get dumber because they're going for more of a mainstream audience, which I'll touch on that in just a second here, because that's the problem with taking these HBO shows and putting them on the big screen, but we'll get to that eventually. But those Sex and the City movies took everything that made those characters worth watching and wanting you to believe in them, and just turned them into typical stereotype woman characters. You can't just have these characters not grow up with time. I mean, I would say this isn't a cartoon where age doesn't matter, but I mean, even cartoons nowadays have the characters age. I mean, King of the Hill was one of the best reboots we had in years that came out last year. We've had shows where the characters have grown up. I mean, Adventure Time with Fiona and Cake had that happen. What's another one? Steven Universe had that happen. But, it's the real world, and the big flaw of this movie is that these characters rarely grow up in this movie. They're the same dickhead, asshole characters we saw since the last episode. And not only that, the other big flaw of the movie is that there's just way too many subplots that don't make any sense or just serve no purpose whatsoever. Like, Johnny Drama still can't get any work, even though he's the brother of Vincent Chase. There's a subplot about him trying to get a part on The Mentalist, which, by the way, that show ended in February of that year. So, congratulations, you've already date-stamped yourself, and that doesn't go anywhere. There's another subplot towards the end about a sex tape with Johnny getting leaked out by a boyfriend of a girl he slept with that doesn't wrap up. The same boyfriend wants revenge on Johnny for that and never gets resolved. Vince has this relationship with Emily Ratajkowski and never gets a full explanation on that. We never find out what happens with the Larson family, the people financing the Vince's project, played by Billy Bob Thornton and his son played by Haley Joel Osment, and probably the stupidest one of all because it makes no sense. He has a new girlfriend in this, Melanie, who tells her that she is pregnant when she isn't, and another girl that he had sex with the night before finds him and sits with him, suggesting she may have given him an STD. And then Melanie arrives to sit with and argue with the other girl, Paula, until it turns out they know each other and orchestrated the whole thing to see if E was a typical LA douchebag. Knowing that Melanie isn't pregnant and Paula doesn't have a disease, E leaves in high spirits. And it's so confusing because all I think to myself is, what the fuck was that? It comes out of nowhere. There's no build-up. You can easily see something isn't right about this, and by the end of it, the audience is just as confused as Drama and Turtle are, because they don't even know what the hell is happening. That whole sequence made no sense to the story at all. In fact, the whole subplot is pointless. We see E doing all these things for Sloane, Manuel Shariki's character, and by this point, they are together, although E keeps talking to her, taking her to the doctors, taking her to Lamaze classes. There's even a point in the film where Sloane tells E that she's willing to try again. So, why do we need to have E and Sloane not work together when it's pretty clear they still have feelings for each other? Oh, right, because that would mean these characters would have to grow up and be adults, and be men, and where's the fun in that? That's what I'm thinking, but we're going back to the exact same problems I talked about the first time. They create so many problems, particularly with Vince and E, in which they can't allow the characters to grow up and actually realize their mistakes because they live in Hollywood, the land of beautiful women and money-making, and you could do whatever you want as long as you look good. You could make a movie in which these characters grow up because actors can't stay that way forever. If that was the case, then Robert Downey Jr. would still be drinking, doing drugs, drinking himself into a stupor, and probably be dead at this point. George Clooney would never be married, and Matthew McConaughey would still be making lame comedies for the rest of his life, instead of being the actor that we know him to be today. Honestly, the only character you really end up feeling for are three people: Ari, Drama, and Turtle. Ari, because he has a lot riding on this project that Vince wants to do. His job is on the line. His studio is on the line. He has to deal with all these situations and knows he's got to have a hit on his hands, but he needs to prove to his enemies on such a thing, and by the end of it, when it doesn't go his way, he's fine with it because it's taking a lot of stress off of him. And I like the fact that he had the balls to say that this movie that Vince wants to make has the potential to win an Academy Award, and it's this bizarre sci-fi film, and it's just like, it makes no sense whatsoever. Drama you feel for because he's trying to get his career back on track, and even though he could end up being the same jerk at some points in the film, you still understand his dilemma. He's trying to still make a name for himself to the point where he's so stressed out, he's likely to drink himself to death, and by the end, he does get his redemption. And Turtle because he's trying to get with Ronda Rousey in the film. And even though there is a point where they do break up because she thought he was only seeing her for a business opportunity, which is a plenty lame way to break up with somebody. It's seeing as how they clearly had chemistry. There was a point where he literally breaks his arm in a fight and with her to date her, and it works. Like, stuff like that. I wish there was more of that in this movie. I mean, there are things about the movie I do like. And I would say, out of a 5-star system, this probably would get a 3. Because there is stuff I did enjoy about the film. Despite my problems with the characters, how they've grown as people, I still like their chemistry together. You can still look at these 4 guys and see that they do still have a common bond with each other. You know, even their connection with Ari is still really good too. And even everybody in the cast does a commendable job. Their chemistry does still work. I like the new additions they have in here. You know, Billy Bob Thornton does a good job as Larson. And I thought Haley Joel Osment was really good as his son. He was surprisingly really funny. He could have easily been an annoying character, and much of what he said didn't make sense, but that was kind of the point of the character. I even didn't mind the massive amounts of celebrity cameos in the film. I think the trailer, I criticized it because there were so many cameos in here. You got, you know, but you do have a lot of good cameos in here. Mark Wahlberg, Leslie Nielsen, Kelsey Grammer. Not Leslie Nielsen, because he was dead. He was dead for 5 years. Liam Neeson is what I'm trying to say, not Leslie Nielsen. Imagine if Leslie Nielsen dead in this movie shows up in this movie. That would have made this much more interesting. But Mark Wahlberg, Liam Neeson, and Kelsey Grammer were the 3 ones that were really getting me the best laughs of this movie. They have pointless cameos like Warren Buffett's in here, Ed O'Neill, Russell Wilson, Pharrell Williams. Not to the point where I got offended by them. I do like the little homages to the show, too. I thought they worked pretty well here. They're not forced in, and they do manage to keep them out of the main story unless they really need to be in there. Like, the comedy is pretty good, too. They don't pull that BS like Sex and the City does, where they strictly go for gross-out humor, which is stuff that does not exist in the original show is in the way that they put it in here. The gross-out humor in the Sex and the City movies is literally like an Ab Sandler movie, but not in a TV show, but they stick to the humor that works well with the show. really, the movie comes down... The biggest flaws of the film come down to two things. One, the characters are badly written. They haven't changed in years since the end of the show. And the biggest thing is that HBO doesn't really translate well to the big screen. Yeah, HBO works because, on its own, because it goes against the typical standards of broadcasting. Like, it's on a cable, it's a cable network where they can pretty much have more creative control and do whatever they want with it. Like, it's a network that's known where you can pretty much get away with almost anything without being censored. There's no reason to take these shows to the big screen. Like, I mean, even with we've got the news of the Game of Thrones movie being made now, and at this point, I don't think you can really do anything that new or groundbreaking with Game of Thrones unless you go all in on the NC-17 rating, which they're never going to do. Even when they did the Sopranos movie, The Many Saints of Newark, a couple years later, I mean, it wasn't a bad movie. In fact, it was probably the best one of these HBO movies that they put out. But at the same time, it's just like, there really is no need for this to be on the big screen. You could have put this on television and have more free range to do whatever you want with it and stick tried and true to what makes The Sopranos so great. But I mean, to me, the biggest problem with HBO bringing these movies to the big screen is simply that you can't really do anything that new or groundbreaking that you haven't done on television before. You're basically making these movies for a more mainstream audience. It's basically what Family Guy does when they put those new episodes on Hulu only, because I'm starting to realize that the Hulu episodes are basically just episodes that are more safer and marketable to produce, so they can fit into more of the Disney Plus audience in general, while the ones on TV are the typical Family Guy episodes. I mean, that's pretty much what it's like here. Like I'm not saying Game of Thrones can't make for a good movie, but if the show's already putting on spectacular epic battles and more things that you could do on television than you could do in a movie, why even take the risk? And I really was surprised. I mean, overall, I did enjoy the film. I was going in hoping that it wasn't going to suck, pretty much being like Ari in the movie, praying to God this works, but I did get a lot more out of it than I was hoping for. I mean, it's not a great movie, and for a series that didn't really need to come to the big screen, I think it's fine, but the major problems of the movie really are sticking points in this. I mean, the characters needed to grow up. They didn't have to have all these subplots going on that felt pointless. I think that they did that. The movie actually could have worked. I mean, it's a film where it's fine, but you really do see where they could have built up on this. But I mean, if you were like me and thought Entourage went downhill in the last 3 seasons, this is kind of a redemption a little bit. Like, if you took those last 3 seasons and just stopped and just have this movie follow the 5th season, I think maybe you could have had something there. But other than that, though, yeah, it's kind of a letdown. And I said before, I said it was a bad comedy, and I don't think it's... The more I think about it, it's not as bad as I made it out to be. I mean, it's bad, but I mean, I've seen a lot worse. I saw Hot Pursuit. I saw Vacation. We haven't gotten to Vacation yet, but yeah, it's just kind of in the middle in general here. So forget what I said about Hot Pursuit being the best of the comedies here, but yeah, Entourage overall is just I watched it once, and I really don't have the urge to go back and watch it again. So, but I will watch our last movie many, many times because I enjoy the hell out of it. Let's take a look at our last film, John Cusack starring as Brian Wilson in Love and Mercy.
I need you to report to me your thoughts, your feelings. His thoughts, his feelings. I'm giving you unprecedented access.
He's my legal guardian. He's protecting me. He's over-medicating me.
Can you swim? Brian will not be able to see you anymore.
You can't do that, Gene.
Yes, I can.
I have to say to myself 5 times a day, I love you.
Does it work?
I don't know. Sometimes I wish I had somebody else to say it to.
God only knows what I'd be without you.
I do not want to be one more person who wants something from you. So I'm going to walk away.
Why can't I be with her, Gene?
For the same reason, man, that you cannot be with anybody.
God only knows what I'd be without.
I'm gonna beat this, and I'm gonna beat you!
And Elizabeth Banks beats the shit out of Paul Giamatti after that. I mean, that's literally a face that literally says, I'm going to beat you to death. But this is, of course, Love and Mercy, which is a film I've talked about in detail on the website, and also on this channel, too. I did a video when the Beach Boys documentary was coming out about 2 years ago, so want to check that out. There's the video in the corner. But if you don't know what this is a story about Brian Wilson, played by John Cusack in 1988, along with, it alienates between the 1960s and the 1980s, with him in the 80s played by Cusack, and in the 60s by Paul Dano. And it stars, as I mentioned, Dano and Cusack as the young and older Wilson, with Elizabeth Banks starring as his second wife, Melinda Ledbetter, and Paul Giamatti as his psychologist, Dr. Eugene Landy. And the title, of course, comes from the 1988 song by Wilson, Love and Mercy. And like I said, I've touched on this movie before, but both John Cusack and Paul Dano give very different but very similar electric performances as Brian Wilson. They are what carry this movie to greatness. I mean, this is a terrific movie. You've got excellent performances by Giamatti and Banks as well, the two people close to Brian in his later years. A good directorial effort by Bill Pollard, his first directorial effort in, 25 years, pretty much. He's now known for being the producer on such films as Brokeback Mountain, Into the Wild, The Tree of Life, 12 Years a Slave, and last year's Wild with Reese Witherspoon. And you could tell that he knew he wanted to tell a story about one of the definitive music makers of his generation. Even Brian Williams himself said the film was very factual in general. And I mean, it's a movie that really got pushed under the rug. It didn't get a big release when it came out, and it feels like a movie that should have been an Oscar contender overall, but really got pushed off to the side as we had a much bigger musical biopic come out that year, a really good biopic, also with Paul Giamatti in it, Straight Outta Compton, but we're still a couple of months away from that. But this is a movie that you really need to get out and see if you haven't seen it already. If you want to see John Cusack in one of his best performances ever, this is definitely it right here. It's a great movie if you wanted to learn about the later years of Brian Wilson, and with him passing away recently, I mean, this movie couldn't have been better time to go check that, to watch that again. I mean, this is a better Beach Boys movie than the Beach Boys documentary that Disney Plus did. This is a film that I highly recommend checking out. Like I said, I did a full review of this on the Review Network Talks About, and if you want to go check it out, there's the video in the corner there. But it's one you got to check out if you haven't seen it. Love and Mercy, top-notch film. Top-notch film, indeed. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. I was debating whether or not I should do another one of those weeks where I do 2 weeks in one show, but I feel like I'm going to have a lot to talk about with the 2 films coming out next week. We have The Return of Jurassic Park with Jurassic World. The park is now officially open. Instead of Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, we have Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Jake Johnson, a film directed by Colin Trevorrow, Safety Not Guaranteed. This was one of the big nostalgic returns, reboots that most people were highly anticipating. Of course, we'll get to the other one at the end of the year, but we'll take a look at Jurassic World, a movie I really enjoy, and in fact, I enjoy most of the Jurassic World films, others not so much, and then we'll take a look at Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. We've kind of touched on this one a little bit beforehand, but we'll talk about it in full on the next episode. So we'll take a look at both of those movies coming up on tomorrow's show, so stay tuned for that. But with all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that I forgot what I was going to do. Hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. And I should remind you that as of the time I'm going to be recording this, tomorrow, on Saturday, March 14th, be sure to watch the Reviewing Network Awards here on this channel at 8 o'clock. My little alternative to the Academy Awards, which is coming up this Sunday. So, if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the video. It's on the channel, getting ready to be uploaded tomorrow. So, check it out there. And with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.